Good morning, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. So, this morning I'm going to take you guys along with me as I prep some of our dishes for Thanksgiving dinner for my family. So, the first thing I'm going to show you is how to make our cornbread chicken dressing or chicken cornbread dressing. So, this is the way that my mom showed me how to make it, and my grandma made it, so it's the only way we like to eat dressing, and it's pretty simple. So I'm going to take you along and show you how to do that. First up, what I did was last night I baked 3 large chicken breasts, and I just seasoned them up with some all-purpose seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, a little bit of Italian seasoning, and a very small amount of sea salt. And I baked it covered with some bell peppers and onions. And what I'm going to do is I have my forks. I'm going to get these shredded up because this is going to go into our dressing. I also have a pan of cornbread, missing a piece. We had to test it out to make sure that it was good. So I have a big pan of cornbread. I already prepped our vegetables. Some of these vegetables are going to be used for the dressing this morning, and some of them are going to be used for other dishes that we're making today. But for the dressing, I'm going to saute some celery as well as some of the colorful bell pepper and onions. We're going to need about 2 eggs, a little bit of milk, some chicken broth. I have some sea salt, sage powder, poultry seasoning, onion powder and garlic powder, black pepper. This is the cornmeal that I use, and this is the very first time I ever used this brand, and I think that I will continue to use it from now on. It was a really fine meal, and the cornbread is absolutely delicious. So this is the tender bake white self-rising cornmeal. And most importantly, what you're going to need is some cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken soup, and cream of celery. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get started on shredding our chicken breast. And you just want to take your fork and just break your chicken breast up until it's finely shredded. And you can use your fork, or if you can actually cut it up too, depends on however you want it. I like mine to be finely shredded, but if you want big chunks of chicken, you can just dice this up as well. And the juice from the chicken that's in this pan, pan you see, we're going to use that as well. So when I come back, I'm going to show you how to get everything combined together. All right, guys, so here is our 3 large chicken breasts. I have it shredded up to go into our cornbread dressing. And what I did was I already cut up our cornbread. As you can see, this is a nice thick cornbread. This should be more than enough to make our dressing. And I have it cut up, and I'm just going to take a masher and just kind of start to break it up before I get in here and start using my hands, because I will use my hands in this, but I want to do as much as possible just to make it a little bit easier. And in my pan over here, I have it already preheating, and I just sprayed it with a little bit of olive oil spray so that I can start sauteing the fresh vegetables that are going to go into our dressing. So once I get this completely crumbled up, I'm going to get our chicken into it, and then when we come back, we'll get our vegetables sauteed and get everything into the bowl and get it seasoned, and then get it into our pan that I've already sprayed as well, so that we can get it into the oven and start baking. All right, guys, so we have our cornbread completely crumbled up, and I added in our shredded chicken. So this dressing is going to be loaded with chicken. It's so much in that bowl. So I already have our pan preheating, and what I'm going to do now is just add in our vegetables that are already chopped up last night. So I'm going to go in and add some onions, some bell pepper, and our celery. A little bit more onions in there. I'm going to use about half of all of this because I'm going to save it for another dish that we're going to make today as well. This looks good. And I also have some minced garlic that I'm going to put in here. Just about 1.5 tablespoons. We're going to get these sauteed down, and once these are completely sauteed and soft, we're going to add it into our bowl and start putting our seasonings and our soups and our broth in there. Just stir it up just a little bit more. And the combination of peppers and onions and garlic and celery smells so good and fragrant. Alright, so I'm going to get this sauteed down for about 5 more minutes, and then when I come back we'll add it all together and then get it into our pan. Okay, so we have our cornbread, our chicken, and all 3 of our soups. That is our cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, and cream of celery. Now, if you want to omit any of the soups, if you don't want to use the cream of mushroom and you just want to use the cream of chicken, the only one that I will suggest that you please make it without skipping it is the cream of celery, because it just adds another layer of flavor to this dressing that it definitely stands out, and you notice it when it's not in there. So cream of celery, I have to find it for this dressing. So all 3 cans of soup are in here, and then we have our vegetables are nice and sauteed just until they're translucent, so we're going to go ahead and add that in as well. Try to do it where I'm not blocking you guys. So we want to get all of our sauteed vegetables into our bowl. Okay. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start adding our seasonings to it, and then we're going to get everything completely combined. So I have some black pepper, which is what I'm going to use. I also have some onion powder, some garlic powder, poultry seasoning, and then sage all by itself, which honestly, if you have the poultry seasoning, you don't have to use a sage. I just sometimes like to be extra. So I'm using both, but poultry seasoning already has sage in it. And if you can't find the poultry seasoning already pre-made, you can make your own, and what it has in it is thyme, sage, marjoram, rosemary, black pepper, and nutmeg. So that is what poultry seasoning is. And I have some chicken broth, and we're going to use a tiny bit of salt, if any at all. And the reason why I say that, like, don't put your salt in until after you've added and mixed in all of your ingredients, because our chicken has a small amount of salt, but our soups have salt in it already, as well as our chicken broth, unless you bought the sodium-free chicken broth. So you more than likely will need just a very small amount of salt for this, or probably none at all. So just mix it first, then taste it. If you feel like you need salt, then go ahead and add it into it. So let me start getting our seasonings in. I'm going to start with our onion powder. And I don't have measurements for this, you guys. I just kind of eye it, you know. Our garlic powder. Some black pepper. And you get a little workout when you use some cracked black pepper. But it's worth it. It tastes different to me than using the one that's already crushed. I don't know. I know it's the same thing, but maybe it's just all in my head. But anyhow, we're going to give our arms a little bit of a workout this morning, which is good because of all the food we're going to eat today. Okay, so next up is our poultry seasoning, and I'm going to be honest, I go heavy with poultry seasoning. I'm going to even take the little top off and put it in. I like to taste the poultry seasoning when I'm eating my dressing. Okay. Some sage. And I'm going to add, to start with, about a half a cup of chicken broth so that I can get this nice and combined. and I'm gonna come in and add some more later, as well as our evaporated milk and our eggs. I'm gonna add the eggs at the end after I've mixed everything. So when I come back, I'll show you how this looks completely combined. All right, guys, so this is what our consistency of your cornbread dressing should look like. See, it is nice and combined, and if you look, just about every single bite is going to have chicken in it. You can see the shreds of chicken all throughout. So total, I added about 2 cups of our chicken broth into this, as well as all of our seasonings, and this tastes exactly the way that I want it. So I'm going to add in about 1/4 of a can of evaporated milk. And what you want is, you want to make sure this is a nice wet dressing before you bake it, because when you bake it, it's going to take out some of that moisture, and you don't want to bake it dry, because no amount of gravy will save a dry dressing. So you don't want a dry dressing, but so you want to make it wet enough where after the baking process it's still nice and moist and it's not dry. And also, but you don't want to make it too wet where it won't firm up while it's baking. So this is looking nice and good, and I tasted it and it tastes exactly the way I want it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to beat 2 eggs and add it into our mixture. All right, so we have our cornbread dressing in our pan. You can see all of the chicken threads throughout. It's nice and colorful with our bell peppers and onions. So what I'm going to do is add an extra layer of richness. I've melted a stick of butter, and I'm going to get this drizzled all over the top before we bake it. And I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to put it in uncovered for about 45 to 50 minutes. If I notice that it's getting a little bit too brown throughout the cooking process, I'll take it out and cover it with foil. I literally can just have a pan of dressing for Thanksgiving and I'm good. Just give me dressing and cranberry sauce. That is all that I need for Thanksgiving. And I am happy. Okay. All right, so when we come back, I'm going to show you our dressing finished and then golden brown. So I'm going to pop it into the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes, and I'll come back, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, guys, here it is, our chicken-filled cornbread dressing. It is nice and golden brown from the melted butter that we put on top. So I baked it for about 1 hour at 350 degrees. It's full of chicken, full of onions, celery, bell peppers, and just so many different flavor layers from our poultry seasoning, as well as our cream of celery, cream of mushroom, and cream of chicken soup, and our chicken broth. So this is going to be delicious with our dinner. I like to top it with some gravy that I'm going to make in a little bit, as well as eating with our cranberry sauce. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you give it a try, please let me know. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope that you're having a beautiful day, whether you're spending it with your family or your loved ones or your friends, and it's a day that you can spend reflecting on the things that you are thankful for from this previous year, and what you're thankful for going into the next year in a couple of months. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.